Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you're becoming someone you barely recognize? Not just the lines on your face or the slower steps you take, but the quiet sadness that comes with certain habits after 60 that you didn't even notice forming. You see, many elders don't grow lonely just because of age, but because of subtle habits to avoid after 60 that slowly push others away. And today, we're going to talk about 10 of those habits. Not to blame, not to criticize, but to help you see what might be holding your heart back so you can finally break free. There's a man named Mr. Howard. He's 78 now, a widower, a quiet presence in his small suburban neighborhood. But once upon a time, he was the light in every room, hosting Sunday barbecues, dancing at family weddings, calling old friends just to say hello. But over the years, things changed. The phone stopped ringing. Dinner became a solo routine. The mailbox stopped bringing birthday cards. Even the grandkids, once excited to visit, now rarely stayed long. At first, Mr. Howard told himself, "That's just what happens when you get older. Everyone's busy. That's life." But deep down, he wondered, was it really age? Or had something shifted in him quietly, unknowingly? You see, Mr. Howard had developed certain habits over time. Habits that didn't seem like a big deal. A few sharp words. A refusal to accept help. Too much time spent watching grim news. Too little time spent listening, truly listening. They were small choices, but over time, they built a wall between him and the world he once loved. Today, we're going to talk about those habits. Not to criticize or place blame, but to gently hold up a mirror and reflect, so we can release what no longer serves us and return to something softer, lighter, more alive. As we grow older, we carry more than just wrinkles and gray hair. We carry the weight of memories, some filled with joy, others with regret. We carry old wounds, words we never said, and words we wish we hadn't. We carry fear of being forgotten, of losing independence, of what tomorrow might bring. But here's the beautiful truth. The past may shape us, but it does not have to define us. Every habit we've picked up along the way can be put down. Every breath we take is an invitation to begin again. In Buddhist teachings, there's a simple truth. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. So if you've carried bitterness, you can learn to carry peace. If you've carried fear, you can practice trust. And if you've carried silence, you can choose connection. Especially habit number 7. A surprising one, even for the gentlest of hearts. And it may be the very thing silently pushing away the people we love. So stay with me. This isn't just a list of bad habits. It's a path back to presence, to healing, to aging not just with years, but with grace. If this message touches something in you, if you feel seen or gently challenged, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support allows us to keep creating soulful, healing content, not just for you, but for every soul out there walking this journey of aging with dignity and wisdom. Habit number 1. Comparing yourself to others your age. I remember once, Mr. Howard, the 78-year-old man I told you about earlier, looked out the window and sighed. Bill is the same age as me, yet he just ran a half marathon last week. Meanwhile, I get tired just walking to the end of the street. I must have done something wrong in life. It wasn't the first time I heard him say that. A few weeks later, he said again, Mary was in my high school class. She still travels around Europe alone. And here I am, watching leaves fall from the trees. Sound familiar? As we get older, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparison. We look around and see others being healthier, happier, busier, and we begin to feel like we've fallen behind, like we're not good enough, strong enough, or successful enough. Comparison, it seems like motivation, but it's actually a trap. When I was younger, I used to think comparing myself to others would push me to improve. But the older I get, the more I realize comparison in old age doesn't inspire, it hurts. Because everyone carries a different journey. You don't know what Bill had to endure to stay that fit. You don't know how many lonely nights Mary spent just to get to that European trip. And more importantly, you don't need to know. The truth is, you don't have to be like anyone else. There was a time I would quietly scroll through Facebook. Some friends posted class reunions full of laughter. Others showed off their kids buying homes, building careers. And there I was, sitting alone with a cold bowl of rice in my tiny home. I felt worthless. But then, one day, I came across a teaching of the Buddha. The fool looks outward, the wise looks inward. And in that moment, something shifted. I realized I was creating my own suffering by forgetting my own path. Why do we compare ourselves so much? Society trains us to believe our worth depends on being better than someone else. When we're young, we compare grades and careers. In middle age, we compare houses, cars, children. And in old age, we compare health, memory, and relationships. It becomes a habit, a kind of default mental pattern. But you know what? The Buddha called it ignorance, a blindness of the heart. Blind because we failed to see ourselves. Blind because we refuse to accept who we are. How I learned to return to myself. I started keeping a little notebook. Not to tell stories, just to jot down one thing I was grateful for each day. Some days it was, I woke up without pain today. Other days, I cooked a simple meal and enjoyed it. And I would ask myself, am I better than I was yesterday? Not faster like Bill. Not richer like Mary. Just me slowly learning to love myself, to listen to this body. That is enough. When you let go of comparison, you return to freedom. Just like Mr. Howard. One morning, he stepped into his garden and said to me, I still can't run marathons, but today I bent down to tie my shoes without holding on to a chair. That means I've already won against the me from yesterday. I smiled. He had started looking inward. And for the first time in years, his eyes no longer carried the weight of self-doubt. What about you? Have you ever felt pulled down just by looking at others? Have you ever forgotten the small, precious things that make you whole? Habit number 2. Overconsuming television and negative news. There was a time when Mr. Howard started each morning with the news and ended every night with political commentary. His television was rarely ever off. News about war, inflation, violence, and scandals played on a loop in that small living room of his. At first, he said he just wanted to stay informed. You've got to know what's going on. I still need to keep up with the world. But after a few weeks, I noticed his face start to change. Tense, sleep-deprived, often jolting awake in the middle of the night. By noon, he was irritable. By evening, he seemed withdrawn. The news itself isn't the problem, the way we consume it is. I once asked him, Howard, did you hear anything today that made you feel at peace? He gave a faint smile, then fell silent. You see, the world out there is always moving, always full of events. But when we let ourselves get swept up in every wave of negative news day after day, we begin planting seeds of anxiety deep inside. The mind is like a garden, it blooms with whatever you plant. There's a Buddhist teaching I always remember. When the body suffers once, the mind adds 10 more layers. What does that mean? It means when something unpleasant happens, like a sore knee, a sleepless night, or bad news, the physical discomfort is real, but limited. What magnifies the suffering is the mind. We imagine more. We fear more. We add assumptions. We overreact. And in the end, a 3-minute news segment can haunt us for an entire afternoon. Why do older adults often get hooked on the news? I understand the feeling. After retirement, when the kids are grown and social roles fade, it's easy to feel disconnected. And the television becomes a loyal companion. The news gives us a sense of relevance, a feeling that we still belong, still know what's going on, still matter. But that, too, is an illusion. The more we watch, the more restless we feel. The more we listen, the more our mind fills with doubt and anger towards society, the world, and sometimes even ourselves. How I changed that habit. I didn't turn off the television completely. I just learned to be more selective. I set limits. I only watch 30 minutes of morning news to get the essentials. After that, I switched to Dharma talks, soft music, or just allowed silence to fill the room. And strangely, when I gave my mind a little peace, the outside world felt calmer too. The birds sounded clearer in the morning. The trees outside looked greener. Even a cup of tea tasted more soothing than usual. When the mind is at peace, the world feels peaceful too. You know, the world has never been fully calm. But when your inner world is at ease, any place can feel like peace. A Buddhist practitioner doesn't run away from life. They simply learn how to stay mindful in the midst of life's chaos. Simple practices you can try starting today. Set a fixed time to watch television, and don't let it run endlessly in the background. After the news, place your hand on your chest, close your eyes for 2 minutes, and ask, "What is my heart feeling right now?" Listen to a short Dharma talk, something gentle and healing. Try teachings from Thich Nhat Hanh or any teacher you trust. At the end of the day, instead of watching the late news, listen to meditation music or read a few calming pages of a Buddhist book. That's all it takes, and you'll begin to feel a shift in your heart. Mr. Howard still watches television nowadays, but he also knows when to turn it off, just to enjoy the evening sunlight. He once told me, "I don't need to know everything happening out there. I just need to keep this little heart of mine at peace." And I believe you can do that too. What about you? Have you let television and the news shape your emotions? Have you ever felt drained without knowing why, just from absorbing too much negativity? Habit number 3, becoming negative or overly critical. I'm just being honest. That's what Mr. Howard often sighed every time someone went quiet after hearing one of his remarks. When his daughter told him about her new job, he sighed, "Back in my day, I worked 3 jobs and never complained." When his grandson proudly showed him a drawing, he frowned. "This, you call this art?" When the neighbors painted their fence, he stood by the gate and said loudly, "That color hurts my eyes." At first, people laughed it off. But slowly, they stopped visiting. His daughter called less often. His grandson would say hello and quickly retreat to his room. And the neighbors quietly avoided eye contact. I used to be that way too, so I understand. I don't blame Mr. Howard, because I've been there. Old age doesn't just bring a hunched back, it carries silent aches as well. Regret over the time that's passed. A sense of loss from no longer being the center of attention. And sometimes a quiet sadness from feeling left behind. These feelings often go unspoken. They build up, and then they spill out in words harsh, cold, or full of complaints. What does Buddhism teach about speech? In the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha emphasized right speech, speech that is truthful, kind, and nurturing. A truthful word spoken at the wrong time is still a wrong word. A fact that causes harm is still verbal misconduct. Many think, "I'm old, I've earned the right to say whatever I want." But the truth is, it's not that you can't speak your mind. It's that we must learn how to speak in a way that makes people want to stay close. The quiet damage of negative words. A small criticism can make someone feel deeply inadequate. A single sarcastic remark can make a child too shy to speak for days. And the saddest part? Older people often need connection the most. Yet they unknowingly create distance through their words. Mr. Howard didn't want to hurt his grandson. He just didn't realize that his words were like thorns slowly pushing others away. How I learned to shift this habit. One day, during meditation, I had a realization. Every word I say leaves an imprint on someone's heart. And I didn't want my loved ones to remember me as the person who always scolded. So I began a simple practice. I allowed myself to complain for just 2 minutes per day. After that, if I wanted to speak, I had to begin with gratitude. Instead of, "Ugh, my leg hurts again," I said, "My leg hurts today, but I'm glad I can still cook for myself." Instead of, "This television show is awful," I'd say, "At least the background music is kind of soothing." I'm not pretending to be cheerful. I'm simply choosing to see things more lightly so my heart feels lighter too. A peaceful mind leads to gentle words, and that's a gift to yourself. Ever since I changed the way I speak, something shifted. My grandchild stays longer after meals. My child shares more about work even when I don't ask. And my neighbors invited me for afternoon tea. All because I learned to speak like a friend, not a judge. Here's a small practice you can try today. Before saying anything, take a deep breath and ask yourself, will this make the other person feel warmer inside? Keep a little notebook and write down one kind thing you said each day. And if you accidentally hurt someone with your words, apologize as soon as possible. Not because you are wrong, but because you value the relationship. Mr. Howard changed too, not completely, but enough. One day, he told his grandson, "Your drawing looks kind of strange, but I like the bright colors." The child looked up and smiled. "Thanks, Grandpa. I'll draw you another one." And what about you? Have you ever spoken the truth but accidentally hurt someone? Have you ever wished you could go back and say something differently? Habit number 4. Sleeping at the wrong hours or oversleeping during the day. Back when he was still working, Mr. Howard used to wake up at 6:30 every morning. He'd brew his coffee, read the newspaper, then head out to water the garden before starting his day. That routine lasted for decades. But then, he retired. At first, he thought, now I can finally relax, sleep whenever I want, wake up whenever I feel like it. So he started staying up late watching movies, then sleeping in until almost noon, then taking 3-hour naps in the afternoon because, in his words, "It's not like I've got anything urgent to do." But then, something strange began to happen. Even though he was sleeping a lot, he always felt tired. Mornings became foggy. His memories slowed down. At night, he'd toss and turn until 2 or 3 a.m. And in the mornings, he felt like his body was weighed down by stones. He told me, "I feel like I'm living in a fog." Sleep, it seems simple, but it's the root of many things. Sleeping at the wrong times, or oversleeping, throws off the body's internal clock. And when that clock is disrupted, everything else can get out of sync too. Hormones become unbalanced. Memory declines. Mood swings increase. And even worse, it raises the risk of falls and mild depression in older adults. Mr. Howard had no idea that poor sleep habits could lead to so many problems. Why do older adults often fall into irregular sleep patterns? The answer is simple: no more fixed schedule. No job to get to, no appointments, no set responsibilities. The day starts to feel empty. And when there's no reason to wake up early, it's easy to stay in bed a little longer. By the afternoon, you feel drowsy, so you nap. Then at night, you're not sleepy, so you stay up late. Little by little, the rhythm of life unravels, and with it, the body's natural stability. What does Buddhism say about this? In the teaching of the Middle Way, the Buddha emphasizes, not too much, not too little. This is the path to wisdom and peace. Even sleep, when overdone, can cloud the mind. And when lacking, it leaves the body weak. Sleeping at the right time and for the right length isn't just a biological need. It's a form of mindful living. How I helped Mr. Howard reset his rhythm. I didn't pressure him to wake up and exercise like in the old days. I simply invited him to take a gentle morning walk at 7 a.m., even if just for 15 minutes. Then he'd come home, make tea, sit on the porch, and write down 3 things he was grateful for. At noon, I reminded him to nap for exactly 30 minutes, no more. And at night, I encouraged him to shut off screens and spend 10 quiet minutes in deep breathing. Just 2 weeks later, he told me, "My mind feels clearer, my memory's sharper, but most of all, I feel in control of my day again. Are you drifting through your days without direction? Do you wake up not knowing what you'll do today? Do your sleep patterns feel off and life lacks its usual spark? If so, don't blame yourself. You're not lazy, you've just lost your anchor. And that anchor is a steady, intentional routine. Simple tips to restore a healthy rhythm. Choose a consistent wake-up time each morning, even on weekends. Create a morning ritual, like making tea, taking a walk, or reading a few pages. Limit naps to 20-30 minutes max. Turn off electronic devices at least 30 minutes before bedtime. Meditate or listen to soft music before sleeping to ease your mind. Your body loves consistency, be kind to it. A steady rhythm doesn't make you a robot. It helps you live more deeply, more fully, and with greater awareness of every moment. Mr. Howard no longer stays up until 2 a.m. He sleeps better, dreams less, and wakes up feeling rested. One sunny Sunday morning, he said to me, "I don't need to do a lot anymore. Just being clear-headed and at peace each day, that's enough for me." And what about you? Do you feel like your sleep and daily rhythm have gone off track? Are you drifting through time or truly present in each day that passes? Habit number 5. Living in constant fear of illness. I remember one night, Mr. Howard called me close to midnight. His voice was anxious. "I just coughed 3 times. Do you think it could be lung cancer?" I asked, "Do you have a fever?" He said, "No, but I just read online that a dry cough might be an early sign of cancer." Then he listed a dozen symptoms he found on Google. Pain in his right shoulder, chest tightness, forgetting his grandson's name. He'd been browsing everything from WebMD to senior health forums. And the more he searched, the more he panicked. The next morning, he was so exhausted he skipped breakfast. He just lay there, wide-eyed, spinning through every possible illness in his mind. One little cough, and he imagined all kinds of disease. A mild ache in his back, and he feared fractures, tumors, or worse. When the mind is afraid, the body suffers more. We often think pain starts in the body, but many times, pain begins in the fear within the mind. There's a beautiful image in Buddhism. The first arrow is the physical pain, but when we worry, imagine, blame, we shoot ourselves with 10 more arrows. I think of that every time Mr. Howard groans about vague symptoms. Why do older adults often live in fear of illness? I understand. I've been there too. As the body begins to change, growing weaker, slower fear sneaks in. You used to run 5 kilometers. Now, 10 minutes of walking leaves you breathless. You used to remember everything. Now, you forget familiar names. You used to feel strong. Now, you need help with daily tasks. These changes make us lose trust in our own bodies. And from there, fear quietly takes root. When the mind is afraid, the body grows even weaker. Research shows, the more we worry about our health, the more likely we are to feel imaginary symptoms. The more negatively we think, the more prone we are to insomnia, appetite loss, and digestive issues. And people who constantly fear serious illness tend to have a much lower quality of life even if they're actually healthy. What does Buddhism teach? In his talk, Understanding and Love, Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Illness is a part of life. But if you know how to breathe and smile to your body, you can hold the pain gently and not let it control you." The key word is hold. Not run away. Not give up. Just listen to your body without panicking over every little signal. How I helped Mr. Howard through this. I didn't tell him to stop researching. I just said, take a sip of water and sit quietly for 5 minutes. If the cough doesn't come back, let's not make it a big deal. I taught him a simple meditation from Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in, I am aware of my body. Breathing out, I smile to my body. He practiced it every morning for 10 minutes before taking his medicine. And slowly, he noticed his breath felt lighter. He felt alive and present. The solution isn't to not be afraid, but to walk through the fear. Get regular health checkups so you have real answers, not guesses. Stop Googling random symptoms. Talk to a doctor or specialist instead. Practice body-based meditation to listen, not to worry. And most importantly, nourish gratitude for your body, even as it ages. True health is not just in the body, it's in the peace of your mind. Mr. Howard still coughs sometimes. His back still aches now and then, but he doesn't panic like before. He gently places his hand on his chest, breathes in, breathes out, and says softly, "My body is trying and so am I." What about you? Are you living in fear of illness more than living in trust and love for your body? Maybe today is the perfect time to begin, with just one mindful breath and one gentle smile for yourself. Habit number 6, withdrawing from the community. I don't want to bother anyone. That's what Mr. Howard often said whenever I invited him to a community gathering or asked him to join me for Sunday service. At first, he declined gently. Maybe next week. But the next week, he said he was busy. Soon, he stopped going to church, stopped calling old friends, stopped visiting his favorite coffee shop, the one where he used to greet everyone with a warm smile. He wasn't angry at anyone, he just slowly began to retreat. He started thinking, everyone has their own life now. My presence would only be a burden. I'm old, slow, out of touch. People talk to me out of politeness, not because they truly want to. And little by little, he pulled away from every connection. But here's the thing, the further he withdrew from people, the closer he came to depression. He slept more, stopped laughing out loud, spoke less, ate less, stared off into the distance more often. And sometimes, he whispered, "No one needs me anymore." Withdrawing from others is a quiet way of hurting yourself without realizing it. I know many older adults like Mr. Howard. No one pushed them away, but they began to feel like extras in the lives of others. They felt they no longer had a role, no longer felt invited. So instead of reaching out, they silently stepped back. What does Buddhism say about this? In Buddhism, there's a precious gem called Sangha, the spiritual community. The Buddha once taught, one without a spiritual community is like a tree without roots. Even the Buddha didn't walk the path alone. So how could we ordinary people not need the light of others? We weren't born to isolate. We were born to connect, to support each other, even if it's just with a simple question. How have you been lately? How I helped Mr. Howard reconnect. I didn't push him into crowds. I just invited him to take a morning walk with me past Margaret's house, an old friend from the neighborhood. At first, he declined, but when I said, "She's been asking about you," he smiled and agreed. The first time, they just said hello. The second time, they had tea. The third time, he shared old memories. And the fourth, they laughed, like no time had passed at all. I saw his eyes light up again. No more heaviness, no more distance. You are not a burden. You are a quiet light someone else needs. I know there are moments when you think, I'm old, no one understands me, no one needs me anymore. But do you realize this? Just one phone call, and someone feels less alone. Just one smile, and someone's day becomes brighter. Just sitting quietly and listening, and someone feels seen. Your presence, even in silence, is a gift. Gentle, meaningful ways to reconnect with others. Call an old friend. You don't need to say anything deep. Just ask, "How are you doing?" Join a light class, meditation, cooking, calligraphy, not to master a skill, just to meet people. Visit a familiar public place, the library, a cafe, a church, and simply let yourself be seen. Write a card to someone. Even a simple greeting can brighten someone's day more than you know. Mr. Howard still lives alone, but he's no longer lonely. Every week, he calls an old friend. On Sundays, he puts on a nice shirt, sits on his porch, and gets ready to say, "Good morning," to anyone who walks by. And what about you? Are you turning down invitations, telling yourself you're not needed? Are you quietly hiding behind closed doors, while the world is still out there waiting for you to open them? Habit number 7. Becoming easily irritated or losing patience. One cold winter afternoon, Mr. Howard went to the store to pick up a few small items. In front of him at the checkout was a young cashier, slow with every movement, fumbling with each item. Howard frowned, let out a loud sigh, and then muttered, "It's such a simple task. Don't you realize people have other things to do besides waiting on you?" The boy's face turned red. He stammered an apology and lowered his head. Only when Howard reached the parking lot did he overhear someone whisper, "He has mild autism. This is his first job. He's doing his best." Howard froze in silence. Words spoken in anger are like arrows once released. They can't be taken back. "I understand, Howard, because I've been there too. There are days when I'm tired, in pain, or just not feeling well, and I notice I lose patience more easily than I used to. I get irritated by the tiniest things. The neighbor's vacuum making noise. My child cutting me off mid-sentence. My grandchild staring at a phone instead of making eye contact. Aging doesn't just slow the body sometimes, it makes the mind crave more control. We want things done quickly, properly, the way we prefer. And when the world doesn't follow that script, we lash out, we complain, we snap. But the damage isn't just to others, it's also to ourselves. Every time you lose your temper, you think you're letting it out. But really, you're setting yourself on fire from the inside first. In Buddhism, this is called anger, one of the 3 roots of suffering: greed, hatred, delusion. The Buddha once said, "Holding onto anger is like picking up a hot coal. To throw at someone, you're the one who gets burned first." Why do older adults tend to get angry more easily? It's not because you've become mean. It's because with age, the nervous system becomes more sensitive. Your tolerance for discomfort lowers. And while your pace slows down, the world keeps moving faster. On top of that, when you feel ignored or disrespected, it's easy to burst out. You don't feel heard, so you speak louder. You don't feel seen, so you react more. But the louder you speak, the more people step away. And that cycle repeats itself over and over. How I helped Mr. Howard practice patience. It wasn't through long lectures. Just one short phrase I repeated to him whenever he felt the storm rising. That person is suffering too. Slowly, he began repeating it to himself before saying anything. One day, when a healthcare worker showed up late, instead of complaining, he simply sighed and said, "Maybe they're having a rough day." And I saw it. The softness returned to his eyes. Buddhism teaches, patience is not weakness, it is the strength of the wise. You can shout to win an argument, but the wise choose silence to protect their peace. You can glare to make someone change, but the wise choose a gentle smile and change themselves instead. Simple daily practices to strengthen patience. When you feel yourself getting hot inside, take a deep breath in and a slow breath out. Do this at least 3 times. Remind yourself, I don't know what this person is going through. Keep a small notebook. Every time you stay calm, write it down and praise yourself. If you do lose your temper, don't hesitate to say, "I'm sorry. I reacted too quickly." It doesn't make you smaller. It makes you greater in others' eyes. Mr. Howard now knows how to pause before he speaks. He once told me, "I used to think quick words made me strong. Now I see quiet restraint is the real power." And you know what? Since he began practicing patience, those around him softened too. Because the calm energy of one person reaches further than you think. What about you? Have you noticed yourself getting angry more often, even over small things? Have you ever said something you regretted all day long? Habit number 8. Being overly frugal and forgetting how to give. Mr. Howard wasn't poor. In fact, he had saved enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life with extra to spare. But you know what? He still wore the same old shoes with worn-out soles. Still skipped family gatherings because gas is too expensive. still said no to dinner invites with a simple line, "I've got eggs at home. Boil them and I'm good." When his daughter invited him on a trip, he replied, "Let's save that for when it's really necessary." But that really necessary moment never came. One time, his grandchild had a birthday party. The whole family went to Disneyland. Howard stayed home. "Too expensive," he said. A week later, he sat scrolling through photos on Facebook. Laughter, bright smiles, and one empty seat at the table where he should have been. He sat in silence. Frugality is a virtue, but taken too far, it becomes a wall between us and happiness. I once asked him, "Howard, what are you saving for?" He paused, then said, "I don't know. I guess I'm afraid one day it won't be enough." Afraid of not having enough even when you already do. Afraid of lacking even when there's nothing lacking. That's the mental trap many older adults fall into. What does Buddhism teach about this? In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, "One who knows how to give is rich not only in possessions, but in heart." Giving isn't just about offering what you don't need. It's about opening your heart to receive joy, connection, and lightness in return. Stinginess isn't always in the wallet, sometimes it lives in fear. Some people are so frugal, they deny themselves joy. They won't treat themselves to a good meal. They avoid donating to others, thinking, "What if I need it later?" But the truth is, tomorrow hasn't come yet, and today is where life is meant to be lived. I encouraged Mr. Howard to start something small, a joy fund. I said, each month, set aside 5% of your pension just for things that make you smile. A good meal, a new pair of shoes, a surprise gift for someone you care about. He hesitated at first, but eventually, he gave it a try. First month, he bought a new shirt and wore it to church. Second month, he sent a birthday gift to his granddaughter, a book he once loved as a boy. Third month, he donated a small amount to the local dog shelter, the one that saved a dog he once cared for. And then he told me, "It's strange. The more I give, the more I feel I have." Real joy isn't found in your bank balance, but in the moments you dare to live fully. You don't need to be reckless with money. But you do deserve comfort, joy, and kindness, especially from yourself. The tighter you grip, the more your hands ache. The more you open, the lighter your heart becomes. Simple ways to practice joyful generosity. Set aside a small part of your income each month for joy. A meal out, a movie, a gift for someone else. Don't wait for a big moment to give. A cup of tea, a smile, a kind word, these too are gifts. Ask yourself, today, what can I do to help someone feel cared for? And don't forget to ask, have I been kind to myself lately? Mr. Howard isn't richer now, but he's richer in joy. And every time he gives a small gift, he smiles and says, "I'm living now, not just surviving." What about you? Are you holding on too tightly, forgetting that joy too needs to be nourished? Are you postponing happiness for a day that may never come? Habit number 9, holding on to grudges and not letting go of the past. Mr. Howard had an older brother named George. They used to be inseparable, fishing together, playing baseball, growing up side by side in a little wooden house on the edge of town. But in 1999, after a bitter argument over their parents' inheritance, they stopped speaking. No phone calls, no apologies, no handshakes, just a growing distance, colder, until it froze completely. Over 20 years later, that distance still remained. I once asked him, "Do you want to call George?" Howard shook his head. It wasn't my fault. If he wants to make peace, he has to reach out first." But whenever George's name came up, Howard's eyes dimmed. His voice changed. It was clear the wound had never healed, and the one carrying it for over 2 decades was him. Anger doesn't hurt the other person in the way we think. There's a Buddhist teaching I always remember. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal to throw at someone. You're the one who gets burned first. Mr. Howard thought he was standing his ground, but in truth, he was carrying a heavy stone in his chest every single day. Why is it harder to let go with age? The older we get, the more memories we carry. And the ones we never resolved settle deep inside, like sediment on the heart. We tell ourselves, I was right. They betrayed me. I don't need anyone anymore. But deep down, what we need most isn't to be right, it's to be free. Holding a grudge for years is like living with a ghost. It doesn't scream, but it lingers. It closes your heart. It makes it harder to trust. It plays in your dreams, your memories, your quiet stares into space. So what did I help Mr. Howard do? I didn't tell him to call George. I simply said, you could write him a letter. You don't have to send it. Just say what's on your heart. So he wrote. He wrote through tears. He wrote with pain he thought he'd already buried. When he was done, he folded the letter, walked into the backyard, and burned it. As the paper turned to ash, he looked at me and whispered, I feel light, really light. Buddhism teaches, forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you. When you forgive, you're not saying they were right. You're giving yourself permission to live without being tied to an old wound. You can't change the past, but you can choose to see it with compassion and move forward with peace. A few gentle ways to release old burdens. Write a letter to the person you're still hurt by. Say everything you need to then burn it. Practice loving kindness meditation every morning. May I be at peace. May they be at peace. Picture them as a child just like you trying to survive their own pain. If the time is right, open the conversation. If not, just open your heart. You deserve a heart that's light, not one chained to the past. Mr. Howard hasn't called George yet. But now, when he tells stories from the old days, his voice is softer. No more bitterness, no more blame. Just a touch of sadness and a lot more understanding. And I believe one day, if the phone rings with a familiar name, he'll smile and pick it up. And what about you? Are you holding on to an old grudge, one that still makes your chest tighten every time you think of it? Are you carrying a memory not because it's beautiful, but because you've never truly forgiven? Habit number 10. Hoarding and refusing to let go. Mr. Howard's house wasn't large, but it was always full. Not just of old books, souvenirs, or gifts left untouched for years, but full of dust, of memories, and of things he hadn't touched in a very long time. In one corner sat a worn-out rocking chair where his mother used to sit. In the closet, a wool jacket hand-knitted by his wife in 1982. A box full of Christmas cards from people he no longer kept in touch with. I once asked him, do you plan to clear some of this out? He replied, number. Every item means something. Every piece holds a memory. If I throw it away, wouldn't that mean I'm throwing away parts of my life? I didn't say anything, because I understood he wasn't just holding on to stuff. He was holding on to a version of himself, a part of his past he didn't want to lose. But with time, everything changes whether we want it to or not. One day, he tripped over a pile of old newspapers. That was the day he finally admitted, I've held on to too much for too long, and I haven't even touched most of it in years. Buddhism teaches, everything is impermanent. Whatever you cling to too tightly will bring you suffering when it inevitably changes. Objects like memories are not eternal. We think we're preserving them out of love. But when we keep too much for too long, they start to take up space not just in our home, but in our hearts. Hoarding is often a sign that we're clinging to the past because we haven't fully accepted the present. Have you ever kept something just because my mother once used it? Or held onto a shirt that no longer fits just because it reminds me of the best time in my life? I'm not saying you have to throw away your memories, but I do want to gently ask, does this item still bring you joy, or has it become a quiet burden? How did I help Mr. Howard start letting go? We didn't start with the whole house. We picked one drawer, just one corner of his study. He held each item, one by one. I still remember the day I got this. Oh, this music box. It was my wife's. This hat. I wore it when I walked my daughter to school. And then, he cried. Not out of sadness, but because he realized he had lived a full, beautiful life, and now it was time to let it gently rest. The answer isn't to throw everything away, but to keep what truly matters today. Start with one shelf, one drawer, one corner. Keep only what touches your heart now, not just what once did long ago. Give away the rest to someone who needs it, or let it go as a gift to simplicity. Cleaning your home is a way to refresh your space. Cleaning your heart is how you refresh your life. Mr. Howard now lives in a home with fewer things but much more light. His room is tidy. A family photo hangs in the center. A small table with fresh flowers. A bookshelf with just a few favorite titles, the ones that bring him peace, again and again. He told me, I didn't throw away my past, I just chose to keep what helps me live lighter now. What about you? Are you living among things you no longer need, simply because you're afraid to let go? Are you letting the past fill every corner of your present, leaving no room for new joy? Mr. Howard didn't change overnight, but slowly, piece by piece, he began again. He smiles more now, forgives more, shows up even on days he doesn't feel his best. And something beautiful happened. Old friends started calling. Neighbors paused longer at his gate. His grandchild hugged him tighter during their last visit. Aging isn't about fading away. It's autumn, golden, quiet, but brilliant, if you learn to live deeply, slowly, and sincerely. None of us is perfect, but as long as we're still breathing, each day is a chance to let go, grow lighter, and start again on your terms. And you? Is there one habit you're ready to release just for today? Not for anyone else, but because your heart deserves peace. If you'd like to share it, leave it in the comments. And if this video touched something in you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, so I can continue walking this mindful journey of aging alongside you.